What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the VanVleet Report. It's time to talk about the Toronto Raptors because there have been some major updates regarding the Raptors free agent. There also has been some trade rumors linking Pascal Siakam to an Eastern Conference team, and we got some information about Og Anunoby and his future with the Toronto Raptors. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you want to hit the like button, that'd be very much appreciated. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on my channel, and the shout out for today's video goes out to Todd. So Todd, thank you so much for supporting this channel through likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. Now let's get on to rumor number one, and this is about Fred VanVleet. And shout out to Rap City for the quick updates as always. And it was being reported executives believe Fred VanVleet will re-sign with the Raptors on a 3-year, $90 million deal. And I'm not even going to try to attempt to say the source's name. I do follow you on Twitter, but Barheni. I apologize for the mispronunciation, but let's talk about this because this is quite a lot of amount to be giving Fred VanVleet, who had a down season, approximately about $30 million a season. Now, I do want to see a few things about Fred VanVleet. Of course, he struggled. A lot of Raptors fans don't want him on the team, but if I'm the Raptors, I'm looking at this in a particular way. You sign him to, yes, $30 million is a lot. I don't think it will be as much in a couple of seasons, but you have to consider one thing. A lot of teams are after Fred VanVleet in free agency. So the question here is, you obviously see how Fred performs the next season, and if he doesn't perform well, or if you feel like you need to move off of him, you can trade him at the NBA trade deadline. That gives you a little bit more leverage, knowing that teams will be willing to give up a little bit more because they know that Fred has multiple years left on his contract. I also do want to quickly touch upon Fred as well. I know he's got a lot of understandable, and most of it, let's be honest, a lot of it can be rightfully justified. Fred had a terrible season where he was forcing up a lot of shots. There's all sorts of rumors about him being, issues in the locker room, him being at the center point of that. So again, I can't really comment on that because I'm not an insider. I don't have the sources for Fred VanVleet or the Toronto Raptors, but obviously, Fred does have an impact on the Raptors, and there's clearly something the Raptors see in Fred, as there's a reason why they want to bring him back. I've told you guys this at the NBA trade deadline, and even weeks ago, I said Fred's coming back, whether you like him or not. He does have a big contribution in the Raptors culture, and yes, the season was a complete mess. I understand the hate. Again, like I said, he had a very bad season. He shot poorly from the field, 38, 39%, even from the three-point line. I believe he shot well under his three-point averages throughout his career, but you have to really wonder, like, what's going on with Fred? Was that more so to do with him? Was that more to do with Nick Nurse and how he wanted to run the offense? I don't know. I still like to give Fred at least one more year. I do this with a lot of guys. I did this with Pascal Siakam as well. You guys wanted to trade him after the Tampa season. I know Fred's got a lot of challenges he has to overcome. Let's be honest. He's got a big ego. He's got to work on that. He's got to work on being teammate that really moves the ball around. He's supposed to be the point guard. He saw him force up a lot of bad shots as well. So I want to give him one more season before we decide to move off of him. Like I said, $30 million is a lot, guys. But let's be honest, you can probably get some spare parts for that and picks included. And I just think if the Raptors feel like they can get more for Fred in the future rather than do a sign and trade now, they're probably going to re-sign him as well. And I just think there's so much behind the scenes sometimes as fans we don't see because we're so focused on statistics. He is a huge part of the Raptors culture. There's been a huge impact with Fred VanVleet. And honestly, when you look back at some of his tapes of when it was the bench mob and even the championship run, you really look at Fred VanVleet. It was like looking at two different guys from last season. So again, that's why I want to give him at least one more season to see if he can get any better or not. But we'll see what happens in free agency. Let's talk about trade rumor here because Pascal Siakam is being linked to an Eastern Conference team here. Now, this was being reported by Jake Fisher, and shout out to NBA Central on Twitter for this. I was saying the Hawks have Pascal Siakam on their radar. Now, absolutely understandable given the fact that they need a little bit of front court help, particularly in the scoring department. We know they have John Collins, who's a fabulous, I don't want to say a fabulous, but he's a really interesting fit there. He can rebound, he can score, but it just seems like he's frustrated with his role on the team. He doesn't know if he's a second or third option. He doesn't know what's going on, but obviously they could look to trade him as well. But taking a look at the Hawks roster here, when you talk about trading partners with the Raptors, Pascal makes around $36, $37 million. So to add on to the salary, one name that comes right into my mind, and if I'm the Raptors, I want DeJounte Murray. Now, this is going to be tough trading. Again, as fans, we always speculate. We always throw up funny trades there. It's a lot harder, and it's a lot easier said than done. DeJounte Murray is making $17 million next season, and you still need to add about $20 million. Now, the easy solution would be to add something like a DeAndre Hunter and maybe an AJ Griffin to that deal. I don't necessarily think that deal gets it done. I think it has to be something surrounding DeJounte, AJ, and one of Sadiq and Jalen Johnson. Again, this trade is very difficult from the Raptors' point of view because the Atlanta Hawks, we know they gave up a bunch of picks. Of course, we know they gave up a bunch of picks for DeJounte Murray, but also to take into consideration, if the Raptors are trading Pascal, one of the biggest factors into trading him is obviously you want to go younger and rebuild, but also because you're going to have to pay him a lot after next season, excuse me. And it's going to be the same case if you look to trade for someone like a DeJounte Murray as well. So again, it's not easy, even though DeJounte is a great player. DeJounte is very likely to be making $30+ million after next season as well. So again, the question is about the salary, what you're getting back as well. So again, I don't want to get too much into this trade rumors because I don't necessarily see a deal happening here just from both sides. I don't think the Raptors will give him up easily, and I don't think the Atlanta Hawks will meet the expectations of the Raptors and their asking price. Let's move on to our trade rumor number 3 here. And shout out to the other Raptors page on Instagram that also does a really good job of keeping us Raptors fans up to date. And they were reporting the Toronto Raptors very likely to have to pay upward of $20 million per season in order to retain Jakob Poeltl in free agency this summer. This was being reported, by the way, by John Hollinger. So obviously $20 million is a lot for someone who doesn't shoot free throws, who doesn't shoot threes, and doesn't shoot jump shots at all either. All Jakob Poeltl really has is this push shot, which he kind of does a little bit away from the paint. But I really need Jakob to give me a little bit more. He's a great defensive player. And look, if we're being truthfully honest, $20 million is a little bit too much for Jakob Poeltl, especially considering if you're paying Fred VanVleet $30 million, now you're going to pay Jakob Poeltl $20 million. And look, the new CBA rules make it really difficult for teams to get past that luxury and obviously sign some MLE guys as well. So the Raptors have to be very careful in terms of how much money they're giving each of their free agents this summer. But Jakob Poeltl, obviously, again, not very many quality big men that are around the league. So I understand it's kind of inflation, just with the housing crisis, like how you see in the US and Canada as well. Houses aren't worth $1 or $2 million, but the truth is, it's just how much they're worth at the moment. So $20 million is a lot at the moment. Again, it's one of those deals I don't think it looks as bad as another year and a half, 2 years, but $20 million is a lot for Jakob Poeltl. And I know the question a lot of people have in mind is how is his fit along with Pascal and Scottie heading into the future as well? I think in this scenario here, you really have to hope that Scottie and Pascal develop better three-point shooting as well, because at this stage of his career, I just don't see Jakob Poeltl developing three-point shot. Again, I really like Jakob Poeltl. I think they could probably get a deal done around $18, $19 million. $20 million is a lot. I think the Raptors will realistically have to pay him that much because the Spurs were trying to sign Jakob, and it was close to, correct me if I'm wrong, around 16, 17 million per season, and he rejected that deal. So he's going to get paid a lot. He's also a good passing big as well. He does bring more than just defense as well, and he obviously wants to be in Toronto. So again, take this as you will. It'll be very interesting to see how the Raptors manage not only salaries of each of their free agents, but if they bring everyone back. But let's move on to our last rumor here, and this is about Og Anunoby. And this was being reported by Jake Fisher. It said, according to multiple sources, Og Anunoby is very much welcome to remaining in Toronto if he's able to obtain a larger role in the offense moving forward. Now, some of these reports obviously are conflicting because if you're bringing Fred back, you obviously already have Pascal Siakam on your roster. You got Scottie Barnes on your roster. It really makes you wonder where Og Anunoby fits into all of that. Like, one of those guys will have to take a step back, and it's very likely not going to be Pascal or Scottie. So it makes you wonder, is Fred all of a sudden going to take a step back to allow Og Anunoby to consistently be the third option on the Raptors? It's very difficult to see that happening, if I'm being honest. It's one of those situations where it's very easy to say, hey, bring OG back. He'll be happy with the Raptors. He'll want a bigger role, and he'll get it maybe under the new head coach, Darko. But again, I just don't see a way in which Og Anunoby can increase his offensive output on the Toronto Raptors just with the way the roster is right now. So I don't know how I feel about this. I know fans will suggest to trade Pascal. Look, if you're rebuilding, then it makes sense absolutely to keep Og Anunoby around, but I just don't see Og Anunoby being someone that is better than Pascal offensively. I don't know if he will be better than Scottie Barnes. Again, that's a very questionable, but the big thing with Og Anunoby is also his dribbling skills. Like, you see over the years, it almost seems like he hasn't very much improved in his dribbling skills at all. And I don't want to compare him to Jaylen Brown. It's almost crazy how when you see guys like Jaylen Brown, and again, not comparing them, but Og Anunoby, that are so good at shooting offensively and just their shooting numbers, and then you look at the way they dribble the ball, it really makes you question how these guys are NBA players that put in so much effort, yet their dribbling skills are so terrible. So that is going to be one of the biggest parts for Og Anunoby personally, is seeing him being able to operate in the half court offense, but also in isolation as well. In fact, his points per possession, excuse me, were one of the worst on the Raptors. In fact, he had his point per possession was lower than Fred VanVleet. So what does that tell you? I mean, he's a great shooter, 3-point shooter, great defensive player. He's very valuable to the Raptors, and the Raptors should try to keep him. But it really makes you question, how is OG going to get this role with the roster constructed the way it is, but also just his struggles offensively. He's not a great isolation player. He's not someone that can generate his own offense as well. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason, to say the least, for the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, they got Gary Trent Jr., they got Jakob Poeltl, they got Fred VanVleet. There's all sorts of trade rumors about OG and Pascal in the trade rumors, and particularly linking them to the draft. Maybe the Raptors look to move up. We'll see what happens. It's going to be some very difficult decisions that will be made regarding the Raptors roster. It won't be easy, and we'll see what happens and what Bobby Webster and Masai Ujiri ultimately do. But I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on all of these rumors. So make sure to comment down below on what you think about this. And as always, I do have a trivia question for you today. And the trivia question is, which of these Raptors players will not be a free agent next summer? Is it A, Malachi Flynn? Is it B, Christian Koloko? Is it C, Precious Achiuwa? Or is it D, Joe Wieskamp? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So that will be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.